unfortunately, surgery is the only way
To
that,
determine if you have it, you have to
yeah,
open yourself up just to see maybe I have this.
a
How is that not
laparoscopic
visible on a
surgery.
CT scan or an MRI? Nothing?
No, because endometriosis can hide in so many different parts of the body that there really is only one way to test for it. And they were able to do a biopsy and show me that I had endo.
Wow. Hello, hello, Hill Squad. Excited to be back with you guys today. We have an incredible guest whose journey will definitely leave you feeling informed and empowered. Nicole Russell Wharton is an author and a certified trauma-informed healing instructor who's here to talk about a condition that is often misunderstood and misdiagnosed, endometriosis. Nicole is here to share her powerful personal journey, one that took a life-threatening turn before she finally got the answers that she needed. She also details more of her healing journey in her new book, Breaking Generational Silence. But first, our quote of the day. Becoming familiar with our family's narratives is necessary if we want to enrich our understanding of self, including our genetic disposition, to recalibrate our journey toward healing. And that quote is from Nicole herself. So without further ado, let's get into this. I am excited to chat with you about this, and even more excited, I think, to talk to you about the generational trauma stuff, which we'll get into. But I really am also really interested in your journey. You've had quite the healing journey yourself. Will you tell the Heal Squad how you experienced this life-threatening situation and the misdiagnosis and all the misinformation that went around this?
Yeah. So in 2022, I was diagnosed with something called thoracic endometriosis.
Never even
And
heard of this, by the way.
have you ever heard of endometriosis?
Yes, I've heard of
Okay.
that, but I've never heard of this. That's why I was like, wait, what is this?
Yes. So the crazy thing is, back in 2022, I hadn't even heard of endometriosis. I had no idea what it was. Um, and I didn't know that it was something that can move throughout the body and attack the organs. And so, thoracic endo is when the endometriosis moves into your lung cavity and attacks your lung. And so, I had a lung collapse, which I initially thought was COVID, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I just knew I was having trouble breathing, and I went to the hospital, and with an X-ray, they were able to see that the lung was collapsed, but they couldn't see why. Endometriosis is not something that you can detect from an X-ray. And so no one thought to ask me if I was on my menstrual period. There was just no thought that could be a connection between the two things until 28 days later when my lung collapsed again. And the second hospital that I went to, one of the very first questions they asked is, "Are you on your menstrual?" And I said, "Yeah, actually, it just started yesterday." And they said, "Well, what about your last lung collapse? Were you on your menstrual?" And it happened on the second day of my menstrual as well. So there was a pattern there. This hospital that I went to, Lenox Hill, is connected to the Endometriosis Foundation of America. So they're well informed. And
Mm.
this is something that they see more often. Whereas the first hospital that I went to had absolutely no idea. They thought it was just a spontaneous collapse.
See
And
that
so,
before you go further, Nicole, that's something that I really want the Heal Squad to hear. And this is why second opinions and third opinions are so important, is because we assume that any person in this lab coat, anyone who's graduated from medical school, is a doctor, knows everything. And the truth is, they don't. They have to go through trial and error, just like we do on the patient side, to learn and to see things that are connecting. They don't always know everything. So you have to keep searching for these answers, which is why I always say you have to be the CEO of your health, because look, you go to this other hospital and they've had enough experience and they're tied to a foundation that's connected to this situation. So you were in the right hands. But it's like when you go to have surgery, and I coach a lot of people behind the scenes for Karma Points, to get them through, whether it's brain tumor surgeries or pancreatic surgeries, things that I've gone through. And I say, you have to find the best. And the best means somebody who's done this thousands of times can do this operation with their eyes closed. And when they ask their doctor, they're like, oh, well, they did 500. I go, yeah, I'm not comfortable with that because that just means you're the guinea pig.
Yeah.
You're still in the training level for that doctor. I want someone who's done this thousands of times. And so, but people don't know that until they've gone through what I've gone through. So now I love just stopping for people to really take that in because they don't always know everything. And now you're in better hands. So now what happens?
Yeah. You know what? Just to back up a little bit, when my lung collapsed the second time, the very first thing I did was I sat down with my phone and I Googled lung surgery specialist. I was trying to make sure I was going to the best hospital for what I needed. And I didn't even know to Google endometriosis at the time, but I was trying to find a place that was experienced enough that they had seen many lung collapses, thousands of lung collapses, so that I could get better care. And I mean, when I look at my experience the first time compared to the second, it obviously really helped me to just take that moment to be calm, even in a very fearful state, and just take a pause to do the research and make sure that I was going to see the best person possible.
Great point, Nicole, because that's the other thing I always tell people. You have more time than you think to make the right decision so that you are not, because the other thing, sorry, I'm so excited about this conversation. The other thing that's really important for people to understand is when you have some kind of surgery or some procedure, a lot of times people think the complications are just normal. Like, oh, I just got bad luck. And it's like, no, it's because they weren't that good at what they do. That's why you are having infections and now you have to go in for more operations. So that's why you have to get the best person to beat the odds.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it comes to chronic illness or, any type of disease that is not common. Endometriosis is something that 10 to 11% of women have. Thoracic endometriosis is something that like 1% of women have. So for anyone that is listening to this, if you have endometriosis, don't gaslight yourself. Like, this is not a normal pain. It's not a pain that you should live with and manage for the rest of your life. You know, do the sacrifices that it takes to see the best possible doctors to get support. While there is no cure for this, there are ways that you can manage it and minimize it and have children. And I think that was my biggest fear before my diagnosis. I was always curious whether or not I would be able to have kids. I knew that something was wrong. I was having ovarian cysts and they would rupture, and I was having all of these painful periods, and I just couldn't figure out what all of these health issues added up to. But I had this fear that I'd lived with since my early 20s that maybe I would not be capable of carrying a child. And if it had not been for that lung collapse and me going to Manhattan and seeing these specialists and finding out that I had endometriosis, I wouldn't be in the position that I am today with a growing family. So I give them all credit. And while I don't want anyone to go through any unnecessary pain, sometimes we have to, we have to recognize it, name it, and address it if we want to move forward from it.
I love that. I think that that's another thing that we talk about here is unfortunately, sometimes we have to go through hard things to see the other things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like God's little redirection for us. It's the bricks he's throwing down from the sky. It's like, oh, wait, I'm going to give you this so that you can figure out that.
Yeah. And I mean, when I look back at 2022 and 2023, it was all a blur. I ended up having 7 surgeries. I had over 4 lung collapses before I finally gave in and said, let's do the endometriosis excision surgery, clean it up, do whatever you need to do to
In the
get this out
lung.
of my body. What'd you say?
Was that in the lungs?
Yes, it was in the lungs, but it had also taken over other organs in my body. And so it was having an impact on my ability to have children. And it's funny because I got engaged a month before my first lung collapse. And so the
Oof.
entire year that I should have spent planning a wedding, I was in and out of the hospital. There was no greater test for my husband to know whether or not he was the one for me, because he was right there by my side. I mean, we had the difficult conversations of whether or not I would be able to have children and if he still wanted to move forward with me, knowing that there was a possibility that adoption could be our only option. And he chose to stay with me, and I am forever grateful for him. The theme of our wedding was forever well, because it was something that I was
Mm.
trying to manifest over not just our love, but my life. And,
Oh.
this was like my healing partner. And I just wanted to know that he was going to be here with me no matter what would happen through all the ups and downs. And, we're still here today. I'm actually pregnant right now. So
Yay!
I'm pregnant with my second child. So we've come a long way, but
Wow.
it's not over. It's not the end. Endometriosis does not go away. You can clean it up, but it can come right back. So I think it's really important just for women to be aware of their bodies, to know their bodies, and to not just get the second opinion, but get 9 or 10 opinions if you need to. Like Maria, I was having endometriosis symptoms since I was 14 years old. And I thought that you were supposed to have painful periods. I thought crying on the floor and like having to call out of school or work on the first day of your period was normal. I had no idea that those were all symptoms of endometriosis.
Wow. What are the other symptoms people should look out for?
Painful sex, painful intercourse is another symptom. Shoulder pain, which often gets confused because I actually had shoulder pain. I thought it was from carrying heavy bags, but shoulder pain can be linked to endometriosis as well, and infertility. There are so many women that are trying to get pregnant and they cannot figure out why it's not working. I absolutely think if any of the other symptoms stand out to them, that it's something that they should look into.
Is it just a test, like a blood test they do? How do they determine if you have it?
No, unfortunately, surgery is the only way
To
that,
determine if you have it? You have to
yeah,
open yourself up just to see maybe I have this?
yes, a
How is that not
laparoscopic
visible on a
surgery.
CT scan or an MRI? Nothing?
No, no, because endometriosis can hide in so many different parts of the body that there really is only one way to test for it. And that was the only way that I could get the diagnosis, is when I was having a planned surgery at the hospital. And they were able to do a biopsy and show me that I had endo.
Wow. Okay,
And I think
so
that's another reason why a lot of women are afraid to
yeah,
get tested for it, because it's risky.
it's invasive. Yeah. So when you talk
Mhm.
about shoulder pain, I'm curious if you can explain that a little bit more because I was with a group of ladies recently and I was talking about how when I reach to my nightstand, I get this pull across the top of my shoulder and that's never been there before. And they're like, oh, that's a sign of like perimenopause. I'm like, wait, what? And so have you heard that before?
I have not, but it's possible
It's
that
they
that
call
is
it like
true.
frozen shoulder or something. And when you
Mhm.
just said that, I was like, wow, how would we ever compute that like a shoulder situation is tied to our fertility in some way or
Yeah,
our female organs?
yeah. It's something that obviously made no sense to me when I was learning this from my incredible doctor, Amanda Chu. Um, but if you're having the shoulder pain in addition to some of the other pains, it's something you should look into. Definitely don't want everyone who's having any type of shoulder pain to go and get this surgery and look for endo. But if you're having any of the other symptoms as well, I mean, irregular menstruals, heavier than usual periods, if you're finding that you need to change the products every couple of hours, like every 2 hours or every hour, that is not normal. So while I was always told every woman's menstrual experience is unique and some have easier periods and some don't, you're not supposed to have debilitating periods. It's just
Yeah.
no one is.
So back to the shoulder pain. What kind of pain did you have? What does that look like or feel like?
You know what? It was like a dull pain that made it really difficult to carry anything.
Okay.
So I was always like switching from shoulder to shoulder.
It was
Um,
uncomfortable.
it was very uncomfortable. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you getting
Just because I
scared?
know, no, just because I want people who are listening to really know what they're looking for.
hmm
Um, so, so, okay, you have your lungs collapse multiple times. You have to make this decision about having surgery. What organs and what does is it, like, how does it look like in there? Is it just like strangling your organs with like this tissue? What does it look like and where was it in you and where did it have to be extracted from? And what did that look like surgery wise?
Yeah. I ended up having endo in multiple areas. It attacks the organ and then it creates little holes. It's like it creates these little pockets. Um, it attaches to every organ. It creates these little like pockets. My specialist from the Endometriosis Foundation of America Foundation, they use a very unique process with blue dye because endometriosis is something that is very difficult to spot. And so they use this blue dye and they're able to see all of the holes in
Mm.
all of the places where the organs are being attacked. So it's a pretty unique procedure. I think they're one of the few specialists that do this in the world. And, you know, everyone has a different approach to it, but after I had surgery, I sat down and they were able to pull everything up on screens. And um, I was like, am I going to be okay after you've removed all of this stuff? It was like cutting tissue all over my body, which
But you
was
said they're holes. So are they putting things in the holes? Like, or,
no, no, no. They're just cutting out all the damaged tissue.
oh, that the hole created.
hmm
Oh my.
Yeah.
So what
It's
organs?
Um, it was all over the place. Honestly, it touched on like everything in my like uterus area, my ovaries, rectum, like everything in that area.
And in your
Yeah.
lungs, right?
And my right lung.
So they had
Yes.
to go into your lung and clear that tissue out.
Yeah, they did. They had to, it's a really dangerous procedure. But they had to go in through I don't know if you're familiar with the process of having a chest tube, but when you have a lung collapse, they cut a hole in between your ribs and they stick this long chest tube um, through the chest cavity to help you breathe. And so in that process, they cut the hole and then right underneath the endo specialist goes in and they're able to see where the holes were created that was working against the lung in the first place. Because when your lung is expanding, if you have holes in other places, it's like putting pressure against the lung, and eventually the lung gives up and it collapses. So I had a chest tube on my right side, which was painful enough. And then a few inches below that, they went in and they were able to work directly with the lung to clean it up. The entire process, I'm glad that I had amnesia and I was not awake for it. But just hearing about it, they even had to test by flushing fluid to see if there was any space left for anything to get into the lung. And then there's a process called a pleurodesis where they basically reattach the lung back to the wall cavity. And it sticks to the wall cavity, and you have to stay in the hospital for a couple of days to ensure it doesn't collapse again before you can go home. Um,
Poor thing.
my lung collapsed the second time after the surgery. They ended up pulling the chest tube too early, and then it collapsed again, and I had to start from the beginning with the entire process. It's a really traumatic experience that I wouldn't wish on anyone. And when you look at the history of thoracic endometriosis, there are women who um, have gone to the hospital 12 times in a row for every single menstrual period because their lung would collapse and no one was seeing the pattern. No one
Wow.
was understanding that this is happening every 28 to 29 days, that probably means something. And so many women around the world have this happen to them and they don't know why, or how to address it and prevent it from happening again. While this entire experience was scary for me, and I think that I honestly have PTSD from all of it, um, I think my biggest fear is not managing the endo well enough so that it spreads that far again. Now that I know I have endo, it's something that I can treat to the best of my ability. But again, there is no cure for it. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but currently one of the only management tools that they have for endometriosis is birth control. And birth control, being on it 24/7 allows for shorter periods. Women, they suggest you completely skip your period, and it completely throws your body. Like it's not it's not something that I want to be on or that I want to do. Um, but it's one of the only ways that I can manage the endo at this time. And to be completely honest with you, the reason I'm pregnant is because after I had my first son, my periods came back with a vengeance, and they were heavier than they had ever been in their life. And I was so afraid because I'm like, does that mean the endometriosis is back? Like, how could this happen so fast? And then with every menstrual, my breathing felt funny, and I didn't know if it was a mental thing,
Mm-hmm.
if it was like from all of the trauma that I was just like scaring myself into having these anxieties around the lung collapse. And I told my husband, I said, I really love you, but I have to think about living and I want to be here for our son. And if I don't get pregnant naturally in the next few months, I'm going back on birth control and I'm not going off of it because that is the only way to protect myself.
Mm.
And obviously, I gave him a very short window, but we tried and we were able to conceive, which is the biggest blessing. But that's why,
Yeah.
it's because of endometriosis. That's like the
Wow.
time was working against us and we had to do what we had to do.
Well, Nicole, that is a harrowing story. I'm grateful that, I can hear endometriosis and I can hear babies in the same sentence. It sounds like maybe you need a really large family for a long time and just keep getting pregnant. But we're going to take a quick break to mention our supporters who keep us bringing this content to everybody. Friends, I'm really, really excited, of course, about spring. I know Nicole and I were just talking. The weather's breaking in New York. She's excited. I'm excited for spring. The blossoms on the orange trees are, oh, they're heaven right now. And if you're like me, I know you're thinking about maybe how to refresh things in your life. I love refreshing my wardrobe at this time. I love clearing out the things that I don't love anymore, that I haven't worn, and maybe getting a few new pieces. So, of course, you know where I'm going to be shopping, and that's Macy's. Right now, they're having their spring VIP sale. From now until April 6th at Macy's, you can get 30% off top brands and an extra 15% off beauty. So talk about the perfect time to shop for some new fashion trends. This is it. I'm loving all the new denim trends right now. Love the maxi skirts, of course. So I'm going to be checking out some jeans from Levi's, some nice comfy ones with a denim jacket, which is a perfect spring layer. Also, my bedroom needs a little refresh, so I am going to be checking out the new bedspreads from the hotel collection. So don't miss out. Must-haves. Lots of really great discounts here. The 30% off you don't want to miss on top brands, friends. Shop now at Macy's.com or in-store at a Macy's near you. You know who needs to have a little shopping spree and reward themselves? It's you, Nicole. My goodness, your story is a lot. And I understand that feeling, having gone through the health things that I've gone through, where you're like, I have to be alive for this baby. I have to be alive. So being pregnant or birth control seems like your only two options. Have you heard anything else? Any kind of other alternatives that you're going to try? What else are you doing to kind of stack the deck for yourself?
Yeah. So, of course, there's a holistic approach that everyone can always take to everything. There are typically not enough studies done around the outcomes for people who do so. But I have noticed a difference with making some minor adjustments. I now have an anti-inflammatory diet that I keep, and I've cut out literally everything from red meat to fried food, um, trying to eat as healthy as possible, starting my morning with turmeric lattes, still struggling to replace coffee, but really trying to stay away from anything that causes inflammation in the body. So that's one way that I've made the adjustments.
Wow. Um, your husband sounds incredible. Um,
He's pretty
it's
awesome.
it's pretty crazy to think that. How long were you guys together before you got engaged?
We met during the pandemic. So we were together for about 2 years.
Okay.
But I would say dating during the pandemic adds an extra year. So I'll give us a bonus one and say three.
Okay. So you guys were already solid in your relationship, and then a month into your engagement, it was like, okay, the world is getting a little rocky. How
Yeah.
did you guys navigate that time?
You know what? I think planning the wedding is what gave me hope. Like between every hospital visit, while I was sitting on the couch healing, there were times where my recovery was, 6 weeks. And so between staring at screens and reading books, I was planning on the computer and just having something to look forward to. I remember telling my friends, like, we need to plan my bridal shower and my bachelorette around my surgeries. And so, we didn't do things on the traditional timeline. Um, and I remember feeling so insecure because the dress that I had initially picked out didn't show scars, but by the time I had the fifth or sixth surgery, I had scars everywhere. And I remember being so insecure my wedding day about people seeing my scars and not looking perfect as good as I wanted to in my wedding dress. And, I had to remind myself that my husband is marrying all of me, my mind, my body, my spirit, in this physical body that I cannot change and that I need to accept. He's already accepted and I need to accept it too.
That's really special. Yeah, I remember I was like, I look like I got shot up in like a nightclub. I have like scars everywhere. And I remember coming home and thinking about all the fitness covers I had been on with my abs on display. And now I just look like I got shot up. But I was like, you know what? These are my war wounds. Like I survived. And so I'm actually proud of them, which I never thought I would be there. I'm proud of them. I love them. I'm excited about them.
Yeah, but you know what? And it's interesting because people always ask me how, like, how are you so confident now? But I wasn't always that way. I remember crying in the mirror. And I don't know if you can relate to this, Maria, but I just remember crying and comparing and like mourning that old body that I had.
Yeah.
And um I would think about what am I going to do when I go to the beach and I'm at the pool and there are all these other beautiful women who are scar free. Um, and it took a toll on me for a while. I think I even went into depression for a little bit, just trying to cope with all of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I am in a place now, and there was a shift where I just had to accept. I had to accept and I had to focus on the gratitude. And I think, similarly to your experiences, we're here and
Yeah.
we're able to share our stories and we're able to impact other people and heal in community. And that is the biggest blessing because we have seen so many people have unfortunate situations where they don't make it.
Yep.
And so, because I am here, I can point to these scars now and tell a story. And that's more
Exactly.
than the average person can do.
So the irony of all of this too is, and you talk about the trauma around this, is that you are a certified trauma informed healing instructor who's gone
Mhm.
through so much trauma that maybe did you go to this work because you had traumas that you wanted to deal with, or was this just something you were interested in and then you hit all these traumas? I'm so curious.
Yeah. So I thought that it's so funny because as an author, I've written books to help other people in their healing process. And I remember telling people that I am a master at the ability to self-comfort, that there is nothing that I cannot cope through. There's nothing that I can't comfort myself through. And so it's something that I teach through my work at the foundation that I've started back in 2012. My nonprofit's the Precious Dreams Foundation, and we work with children in foster care and homeless shelters. And we provide them with holistic and positive solutions for dealing with the chaos and the challenges that each day may bring. And we help them center themselves and use, free resources like their breath and their body and their journals to process those emotions and to deal with them. And so doing this work for a living has been my biggest blessing. And it's something that I just do naturally. And when I found myself falling into depression, immediately I recognized that all of my go-to coping techniques were no longer working for me. I needed something new. I needed something like stronger, more intense. I was like, I don't want to write. I don't want to go for a walk. When you're dealing with depression, you really just want to be in a dark room or in a dark space, and sometimes you don't even want to talk about it. And so it was very challenging for me to admit that I needed help and that I needed someone who could hear me and help me discover other ways that I could deal with my feelings and get through this, because I didn't want to just sulk in my pain. I wanted to be able to overcome this. I had so many kids that were counting on me, so it was very challenging.
Wow. You needed a you for you. Guys, we're going to stop right here and we're going to come back tomorrow for part 2 of our conversation with Nicole, where she is going to break down trauma, generational trauma, the steps we can take to break free, and a little bit more about how she was able to surrender to get the help that she needed in this phase of her life. So be back tomorrow. In the meantime, be nice people, make good choices, and be present. Hey, Heal Squad. We have been on quite the journey together, and we're hearing from so many of you just how much this show is helping you heal and get better, and it makes us feel so good. We love, love, love it, and we just ask that you don't keep it to yourself. Spread the message and share the show or your favorite episode with your friends. And if you want to help us even more, you can leave us a 5-star rating and a comment on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and follow us on Instagram at Heal Squad. You can also DM us anytime because we love connecting with you. And finally, you can also join us on Patreon for our monthly live heal events with world-class healers and ad-free episodes exclusive only to Patreon and our Super Heal Squad for as little as $10 a month. So go to patreon.com/Heal Squad to join. Getting better isn't easy, friends, but as I say all the time, it's a whole lot easier if we can do it together. We love you all so much, and we love doing this thing called life with you.
This podcast and all related content published or distributed by or on behalf of Maria Menounos or MariaMenounos.com is for informational purposes only and may include information that is general in nature and that is not specific to you. Any information or opinions expressed or contained herein are not intended to serve as or replace medical advice, nor to diagnose, prescribe, or treat any disease, condition, illness, or injury, and you should consult the healthcare professional of your choice regarding all matters concerning your health, including before beginning any exercise, weight loss, or healthcare program. If you have or suspect you may have a healthcare emergency, please contact a qualified healthcare professional for treatment. Any information or opinions provided by a guest expert or host featured within website or on company's podcast are their own, not those of Maria Menounos or the company. Accordingly, Maria Menounos and the company cannot be responsible for any results or consequences or actions you may take based on information or opinions.